the rebranded and facelifted version of the podcast that you love. I'm Loree Bischoff, along with my co host, Lauren Young. And yes, we will still be talking about shift because the antidote to feeling stuck and leveling up begins in our minds with a shift in our thinking. Now, if Lauren is a stranger to you, just be sure to go back to our last episode to meet her and to hear our conversation, which was all about deal breakers in relationships. Some really good stuff there. Today, we're going to be discussing something that Lauren has done in the last few years, reinventing herself. I actually did that in my mid 40s, and how it's never too late to reinvent yourself. If you're needing a major shift in your career, your surroundings, your love life, your health, you name it. Plus, Lauren, if I recall, had a tiny conundrum around an upcoming meetup with her ex. So today, later on, we'll find out how that all played out. Hey, Lauren, how are you? And what do you want to start with today?
Lori, I feel I'm on the hot spot. So we'll
Do
just
you?
we'll get around to the conundrum a little bit later. But thank
Okay.
you so much for opening our conversation today. I want to backtrack just a little bit. We talked about deal breakers in our
Yeah.
last episode, and that was one that had people talking. So Lori, as you know, we have a community of people on Facebook in our We're Talking Shift group. So we will be carrying these conversations over to that group. I want all of the listeners to know that that's where they can chime in and weigh in on these topics of conversation. So be sure to let us know how you felt about the deal breakers episode. I had some conversations with some people and they had some weighing in to do on our conversation. Are you
Mm.
ready for this, Lori?
I'm not only ready, but I'm very curious.
The people have spoken. Okay. This one is from a man. He says, deal breakers for me in the past have been if she drove the wrong car or showed up right on time when we needed to meet somewhere. And pause for just a minute because when did right on time become a problem? I'm j-
Yeah,
I'm I'm
yeah.
shaken up by this one.
I'm curious.
He says I don't care about my date's cars anymore, but I'm ultimately glad I did not marry the woman who can't be anywhere early. It's a matter of respect in my mind, so I've avoided a lifetime of arguments and feeling disrespected. Lori.
Oh, okay. Well, number one, okay, points for not caring about the car. I mean, if I cared about the car that my husband of over 40 plus years now drove when we met in the condition that was in, yeah, my life, I don't even know where I'd be right now. If that was my deal breaker, I wouldn't have the kids I have, the life I have, the
Imagine that
amazing
being a
journey
deal
we.
breaker. My
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So I'm glad he got over that one. But that's I mean, I like to be someplace early. But I really appreciate and I expect people to be on time.
Mhm,
Um, but I don't expect that being on time is disrespectful or in my mind considered late. I mean, on time's on time. So
mhm.
that's um that's an odd hang up. I don't know why you would feel disrespected if somebody is showing up on time.
It's such an easy one to mitigate too. If you want to have lunch at 1 o'clock, tell her lunch is at 12:45. That's so easy.
Well, yeah, exactly, exactly. That's a strange game. I don't get that one, but whatever. Hopefully he's in a very happy relationship and is working for him.
Here's hoping. He didn't mention that conveniently. All right, I got another one here. She says, I love the comment about defining and calling out types of abuse. I've worked
Mm.
as an accountant and financial advisor for nearly 20 years, and I'm shocked to find out some of the financial abuse that my clients don't even realize is happening in their relationships.
Mm.
Relational coercion is another one I don't think is talked about enough, but is definitely happening to someone or likely more than a few people you know. Relational coercion, Lori. Do you know what this is?
Uh, Relational coercion. Um, Financial abuse. Clients don't realize is happening. Okay, so we go from financial abuse. I mean, that could, what does she mean by abuse? This is a she, I'm guessing.
Yes, yes. So she
Okay.
works in the financial realm and she helps people with accounting and financial advising. She's shocked to
Okay.
find out some of the financial abuse that clients don't even realize is happening. So I'm guessing these are apparently happy couples, but they're in one of the parties are in a
Right.
situation that they don't
Well,
realize.
yeah, and I've actually heard that before, from a financial advisor that I've worked with for a long, long, long time. And one of her things is that how many times there's been a situation where one of the one spouse,
Mhm.
typically, not always, but typically the man has been managing all of the finances, and the woman is unaware of how things have been managed.
I think
And
that's
then what
exactly what she's talking about here.
Right. And so there are, she's making assumptions about their security and
Mhm.
her security. And then come to find out, this has happened many times, that something happens, he passes away, and she has a very rude awakening of, okay, things were not at all as
Mm.
she anticipated, and she's put in a really bad financial bind. So I'm guessing that's what, that's clearly the financial abuse, or one version of it. Maybe there's just a lot of debt. Maybe there wasn't life insurance that she thought was going to be there, or whatever. Um, Relational coercion is, I'm not really sure exactly what she means by that. If she's meaning like, the one spouse is sort of manipulating, in a way, the other spouse into feeling like everything's fine, don't worry about it, I have it managed. But it's a little hard to respond to that, because I would like to have more information on on how does she define relational coercion
I don't know
in this
about her
context.
definition. Yeah, one
Yeah.
version of this that I've heard of is like pressuring your partner into things because of the nature of the relationship or because they are your
Mm-hmm.
partner. So this could be at times like a sexual issue or other things
Mm-hmm.
that people generally may not be as comfortable with is the version of this that I've heard of. So maybe that's what she's
Yeah.
talking about. Hopefully that's not coming up
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
financial advisement, but I don't
Okay.
know.
So yeah, the relational coercion may just be on a different subject matter.
Right.
Okay, interesting. Well, and that does happen. I mean, clearly, sometimes, one partner has some ideas about what they would like to do or be or have or experience, and the other person is not so gung ho about it, and so the strategy of coercion can start to take effect. And that happens. That happens all the time. Uh, Anyway, you got
Definitely.
to
I
be.
have I have one more for you. This
Oh, okay.
this was a person I don't have it in the notes because this was just a sidebar conversation I had with one of my friends. She said she caught the ick. She caught the ick, Lori.
Whoa.
She said
Oh,
she was on her 3rd or 4th date with a gentleman when she
okay.
realized he had earwax buildup in his ears. And she said, as lovely as he is, she was no longer attracted. And she said she tried to see him again and she just couldn't get past the earwax.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh. But I mean, I get that. I get it.
I asked her, I said, "Is this a concern with his general cleanliness?" And she said, "No, no, there was never any reason to think that he wasn't taking care of himself." She said it was, and she said that, the next time she saw him, she looked for the earwax buildup and didn't notice it. And she said she just couldn't unsee it though. It's the
Oh,
ick.
interesting. Wow. So everything was great except that, and so now she's calling it quits.
She's done.
Wow, interesting. Okay. Well, you know, you, 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 eh, eh, once you see something like that, as she says, and you can't unsee it, and now you just can't get past it, I guess, here's your sign. I don't know.
So
Just,
make sure you don't have any bats in the cave, anything in your teeth. Clean out your ears. I guess it's not enough to be a walking green flag anymore. You also have to be like perfect. So I don't know.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that must have been a hefty load of earwax for her to have caught it and then not be able to forget it and move past it. So I I don't know. Let's move on.
Moving on.
Gross.
My goodness. Well, Lori, as you know, you met me at a time when I was needing some major, major shift in my life. And we went through this whole process. I don't think we knew it at the time. Maybe you did. We embarked on this process of complete overhaul of me as a human being. And I thought
Hmm.
that would be a fun topic for us to cover here on the podcast. I was early in my 30s. I want to say I was right at 30, 29, 30 when I met you. And so
Hmm.
by 31, I was like, this is it. I'm reclaiming my life at 30, and I wonder how many people do that and why.
Yeah. That's good. A lot of people, um, maybe not so much so frequently at 30. I don't know. Maybe these days, yes, because life just seems to move faster and each year that goes by. But yeah, what's interesting too, Lauren, what I recall, just a slightly side note about when we first started working together is y- you initially came to me thinking that you wanted some help uh, more in the health category,
Hmm.
right? Um, but it didn't take me long to recognize that that was kind of a secondary issue. Um, you ultimately came to realize that as well. I could see it quicker based on the information that I was getting from you, but yeah. So you had actually the life transition, or the need to reinvent yourself for you at that stage of life at that age. um, what you thought it was something different.
Hmm.
Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. And I think the health piece, um, first of all, I viewed you as, an expert in that. You were posting like recipes and things on your Instagram, and I was like, she really has it together. But that felt like an area of my life that I could control, and it wouldn't necessarily have to affect others.
Hmm.
Whereas once we started working together, and it's like, oh, I need a career now, and I need a change in my relationship. This affects other people. And I don't think I had the confidence just yet to take my life back from others. So, starting with the
Yeah,
health and wellness topic, it's like, well, I can go on a run, and that doesn't really interfere with anybody else's life. I can
yeah,
prepare a healthy lunch for myself, and that's not going to bother anyone. So, that's
yeah,
part of it too.
yeah.
Is
Sure. It was a good point of entry,
Mhm.
and it was something that you could start to do for you that wouldn't upset the entire apple cart, right?
Right.
So so we thought.
It
So
didn't take long.
right, right. Boy, those apples got flung everywhere. So, but anyway, yeah. So life, we'll just go through a couple of the most common things. So one of the main reasons that people decide that they would like to do some sort of a reinvention of themselves. And this is not only my own experience, but this is based on insights from therapists and psychologists and other coaches as well. So typically, the one of the main things is just major changes in your life transitions, because these big events can really shake up a person's identity, and that's what pushes them to seek some sort of reinvention. So those events would be something like divorce, a career shift. Maybe they can't stand what they've been doing any longer. They're going to make a move, or they've been let go, which is even a bigger shock if they weren't anticipating it. Empty nesting, that would have been me. That's what triggered me to go, okay, I'm time to reinvent myself from being a essentially stay at home mom to the next best thing.
Mhm.
It could be retirement. So those are some of the major like life transitions that can trigger a desire for reinvention. People, it's natural for people to feel a need to redefine their identity and their purpose once the previous roles that they've been doing um, and inhabited, or they're significantly changes significant changes in their circumstances.
Mm.
So those would be some of the first major triggers. And that's what that was for you. Your thing started, but that's what your transition started, and then that's what ultimately triggered divorce.
Right.
So right, so we'll get more into that if you want to in a little bit. And for me, it was okay. I'm in my mid 40s. Um, I've been pretty much a stay-at-home mom, which I cherished every moment of, with some part-time, stuff here and there peppered throughout. But essentially, I got to be I got to be a stay at home mom. But now, here I am, I'm only in my mid 40s, and my kids are off doing their thing. And I'm like, I have got all of this time and energy. I could do anything right now. So for me though, what I did was I went, okay, what have I been doing that has worked so well for me to
Mhm.
create, a happy, healthy marriage, a harmonious home life, stable, healthy kids? What have I been doing all of these years? Well, I was I was self-taught all of those years, health and wellness and personal development and self-improvement. I just couldn't get enough of that kind of information, and so I self-taught all of those years. So now I'm going, well, this is what I'm really passionate about. Maybe I can use my life experience now that I've built up over 40 years and raising two human beings, and in a healthy marriage, I can use that to help other people. So that was a great, you could call it a reinvention if you want, from being a stay-at-home mom and a wife holding down the fort while hubby's doing all his stuff. Or I look at it, I feel like it wasn't so much of a reinvention for me as it was, the next evolution. What
Mm.
what am I going to evolve into now from what I've been doing? So anyway, just my own little experience there.
I love that perspective of the next evolution because sometimes I tell myself I'm going to do it again. you know, I'm
Mhm.
settling into what I have now, but there will be a shift another time. I am not yet an empty nester, and I have a feeling I'm not done evolving either. So, I
Oh
like that.
yeah, I mean, hopefully, uh, for me anyway, and I think generally speaking for a person's overall, mental health and well-being, that you never feel like you're done evolving, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I would I would like to hope that I'm going to be able to evolve and and grow and become wiser
Mhm.
until I take my last breath.
Right.
You never want to feel like I've hit a ceiling. To me, that I just don't like that. I don't like that feeling of hitting a
I love
ceiling.
that about you. I actually, when we first met, I was definitely not big on growth. I know that sounds crazy, but for whatever reason, I don't really at the time. I was like, I don't buy into this. I don't um I'm not a goal setter necessarily because
Mm,
why do I need to set goals? If I care about something enough, I'm going to accomplish it. That doesn't require my like motivating myself to do
mhm,
the reward is the motivation enough? So I've
mhm,
really had a hard time with that before I met you. So if there's anyone who's thinking like I don't think I can evolve or coaching isn't for me, you're probably wrong. But um, yeah, I don't know. I was definitely one of those who was like, I don't necessarily need to evolve. I was content in the life that
mm,
I had. What I didn't know until we started working together was that I was content because I that was the life that I had. It wasn't necessarily because that was who I was supposed to be. It was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of settling for what I had. And I look back
Mm-hmm.
now and I'm like, man, I made those decisions and changes at 30 or 31, but I could have been, like 91 and still just accepting what was. So
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you have to be ready, and you have to, everyone gets there in their own way, in their own time,
Mm,
or they don't. But you at least you had the impulse, or the intuitive nudge, or the whatever you want to call it, to go,
mhm.
I'm going to try this, initially for this reason, and then it sort of opened up a whole, um, I guess, a whole big set of opportunities that
Definitely.
maybe just were not in your conscious awareness at the
That's
time.
right. You're absolutely right. One of the things for me that got me thinking these things was actually someone who's very special to both of us, Lori, differently to you than to me. But I had this chance meeting with Eric Bischoff, and I don't know that we had even met in person yet, but I was and am a big fan of his podcast, 83 Weeks. And so it just so happens they were opening up this new perk of their podcast where you could have like interactions with Eric. And I was actually sitting at a Mexican restaurant tossing back a daiquiri one night, and they're like, "You can chat with Eric Bischoff as part of our introductory thing." And I was like, "I am so doing this. Take my monies." A few nights later, I find myself talking on Zoom with Eric. I was the only woman in the building of, 25, 50 men. I don't know what it was. And I was just like, how did this happen? But I thought Eric was the coolest guy. He's always been the coolest guy. And he was like, there's something about you. And so we ended up talking like after the fact. Like he sent me an email or something.
Hmm.
And that kind of started things for me. But I was also always comparing myself to, Eric also says that he did all these things in his career, but about his early to mid 30s is when things kind of started to take off for him. So here I am at like 29. I'm thinking, man, like I'm a housewife, I'm a stay at home mom, like this is my life. And then here's Eric Bischoff, who's like one of the coolest people I've ever heard of. And I'm like, No, he wasn't, just doing this or just doing that. And whatever he was doing at 29 is all he's ever achieved in his life. So it was so funny how I felt inspired by his story, but also had him sending me an email like, "Hey, do you want to be involved in our podcast community here?" And so that did turn into an opportunity, and it just kind of
Yeah.
snowballed from there. But sometimes I wonder, man, like if I had not encountered Eric Bischoff and been, you know, encouraged by someone else, would I
Yeah.
have made these shifts in my life? Do you think that other
Yeah.
people might be waiting on that type of encouragement?
Yeah, I think that and that's even true for me. There are a lot of people doing so many great things, and I think that, one of the most valuable things about seeing what other people are doing, and hearing about what they're doing, is that it can inspire, it can light a spark that's maybe kind of just barely a flickering flame in someone, to go, oh, it almost like gives you permission, and it gives you just this little bit of inspiration that might cause you to just make even a small move, take a small step, and follow some sort of urge that you've been maybe ignoring or poo-pooing, um, you know, in your life. And I think it is nice when, all of this, it's one of the great things about all of this that social media has to offer, is everyone now, everyone with a phone, which is pretty much everyone, uh, has the opportunity to find these trailblazers or role models, or just somebody that's doing something that you are drawn to, and it opens up something in you that you maybe would have never tapped into. um, so I think it's really cool that you just, well, first of all, I mean, who sits in a Mexican restaurant and has a daiquiri? I mean, It's like typically I was thinking a margarita was going to come out of your mouth and you went daiquiri and I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting one." Um I don't know why I just caught that. Um no meaning at
Tequila's
all
not
there.
my thing, but where else
Ah.
do you get a daiquiri? Where else do you get a daiquiri?
I don't know that anyone even drinks daiquiris anymore. So that's why it's like,
I left the
oh,
daiquiri in my 20s, Lori. We've moved on. We're on to
okay.
mojitos now,
Okay.
okay?
All right. All right. I did drink some daiquiris. My girlfriend and I, as underage rebels were making daiquiris.
Oh my goodness, don't tell me that.
But that that was like many moons ago. But anyway, so
Weigh in.
no,
Get
but
in on our
I
Facebook community and tell us if you're a daiquiri type or a margarita type.
there we go. Which one? What's your beverage of choice? Anyway, I do one of the things though that I admire about you, Lauren, as we've gotten to know each other over the years, is that you once you decide that you're going to take some sort of action, no matter how seemingly small, like that was like maybe just, oh, I'm going to try this. You had no clue that this could be walking through a door with this one little step of joining this one thing and just saying, oh, what the heck, I'm going to try this. You had no clue where that was going to lead. And you couldn't have imagined, the doors that it would open. But no matter how tiny it seems the step is, or how daunting and big the step is, you do it. You are a woman of action. And not everyone has that. And a lot of people have it going on up here. I want to, maybe someday, I'm going to do this at some point. Maybe I'll try. But you actually, once the thing lands in you, you just take action. And I have a lot of admiration for that. I think it's an amazing characteristic. So kudos to you.
Well,
Um,
thank you. My goodness. I One thing that I'm never going to do is look like a fool. So what I wasn't ever going to do was tell my life coach, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this," and then not do it. I'm once it's out there, it's happening. Maybe that's
yeah.
why I'm not like a goal setter. I don't have to
Mhm.
be. I don't need the
Yeah.
accountability of a goal cuz I'm just trying
Yeah.
not to look stupid out here claiming things that I'm not about to do.
The strong desire to avoid looking, as you say, stupid
Yeah.
is what it's your internal motivation to just move.
Try telling people, particularly people like an unsupportive spouse or family members who traditionally, just kind of stay in their own lane and don't care that much about what you're doing. Try telling people, "Hey, I'm friends now with Eric Bischoff, and he thinks I have potential," and see how much that gets the fire lit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that was an interesting experience for you.
What I was not gonna do was go back to him 6 months later and have somebody say, "Hey, did you and Eric Bischoff ever kick off your little, podcasting deal that you were doing?" And I say, "What do you mean? No." Like,
Mhm.
no.
Yeah.
We're gonna capitalize on every opportunity, and if I say something, I'm doing it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna tell you, "Hey, I have this idea," if I don't mean it. So,
Yeah.
I think, a lot of people maybe they could benefit from just saying it out loud, saying it to someone who believes in you, or
Hmm.
saying it to someone who doesn't believe in you, because
Hmm.
that's motivation for you too, to make sure they see it come through. So that
Yeah,
that works for me.
that's a good point. Depending on the kind of person you are, if you're easily influenced, by other people, and someone you share something with somebody that doesn't believe in you, it could, that happens to people all the time. It just discourages them. They don't have the confidence
Mm.
maybe that they need to go. Oh, I'll show you. Um, they just kind of back off, and whatever it is that they want to do just kind of lies dormant within them. But especially when you have someone that you have some level of admiration for them, or what they're doing or have accomplished, and you have the opportunity for them to actually say to you, have a chance meeting, or a whatever, and they see something in you, that goes a long, long way for people. It's so many people just need that little shot, that says, hey, I see this potential in you. So, go for it.
Yeah. And if
Um,
you don't have that person, I feel like finding a life coach is a great move. Maybe that's what people need is someone who can motivate them and who does believe in them and sees the potential, even when they
mhm,
don't see it in themselves. I
sure.
think that was also kind of a great tool to have in my pocket was your encouragement and your the accountability to what we were working on together.
Sure. Exactly. It is helpful, and I think it's why the industry just continues to be booming. The trajectory of the whole entire coaching industry just keeps going up, and I believe it's because more and more people are finding such value in it. It's nice to have somebody that's in your corner that is cheering you on, that can help you get sort of clear on what it is you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and then be your co-pilot, helping you navigate that process. Um, and and I think a big thing too is we all have blind spots, and somebody else, that's objective, can help you see some of those blind spots that otherwise aren't always apparent to us. So yeah, it can be really extraordinarily helpful for people that decide they're gonna give it a try with the right person and be open to it, and be willing to then do do their work. There's always work involved, right? If you're
Oh,
gonna,
yes, there is.
yeah, there's work
Yes,
involved.
there
So
is.
anyway, good stuff. All right. So another reason that people might feel they need to reinvent themselves is they're just simply feeling stuck. They're feeling very unfulfilled. They've maybe reached a point where they feel stagnant, whether it's in their personal lives, their careers, their relationships. They just might feel that they've outgrown their current situation, and they need a fresh start to kind of align with their true values and their desires. And we just outgrow stuff, hopefully. We just outgrow things and we move into the next thing that's meant for us.
Mhm.
So this is a pretty common one that coaches encounter. A client comes to us feeling stuck, but they oftentimes they can't actually put their finger on exactly why, and they just want help understanding why they feel this way, and what to do about it. So it's again back to those blind spots and just helping a person open up their perspective and asking them some pretty some quality, I like to call them quality questions, that helps them find what's already lurking somewhere in their subconscious. It just hasn't risen to the surface yet, right? To help them figure out what it is that they think they should be doing or
I
want to
remember
try
that
doing.
exact conversation with you because
Really?
I don't think I felt stuck. I think I
Mm.
thought I was content. And I remember the exact conversation that we had. It was regarding my relationship actually. And you were like, "Really? Do you think in 40 years you're gonna be glad that you answered this question this way?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." It was a long process after that. I didn't immediately, turn around and change my whole life, but
Right.
I do recall that being kind of the beginning of that conversation.
'Cause that's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, that you remember the kind of a pivotal moment.
It was.
Yeah, and that's the power of the right question.
That's right.
Yeah. And so that's why having someone, whether it's a really good friend and confidant, or a coach or a therapist, or whatever, that's the power of someone helping you do some self inquiry,
Mhm.
and using the right questions. Otherwise, because we oftentimes don't ask ourselves the right questions. We ask ourselves questions that don't really have an answer, or the answer is or it's limited to what you are aware of. Well, okay, how can you ask about things that are not right there in
In your
your conscious
awareness, yeah.
awareness, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, okay, another one would be a person has some sort of a crisis, which causes a wake up call. So, typically, this is very common. It's a health scare. It's the loss of a loved one. It's a traumatic event, maybe that forces individuals to reassess their lives, what they're doing. And these moments can often create a sense of urgency to live more authentically, to live more purposefully, to do something different than what they're doing. Um, I mean, I've seen that happen with clients, with family, people that have gone through a health crisis.
Mm.
That's a big one, especially if they are at kind of what you would consider midlife. There's a pretty strong wake up call when there's a serious health scare, and it will cause people to go, that was close. Uh, what am I doing? I think I'm going to make some changes because there's just a whole new level of awareness of, I guess, your own mortality, and how you've been spending your time
Mm.
and how you want to continue to spend it. So that's a big one that says, to somebody, I don't think I want to keep doing this. I don't know how much time I have left. Could be a week, could be 40 years. But since I don't know, and now I've just had a big wake up call, I think I'm going to do some things a little differently. So that's a biggie. When if you have something like that in your say your 30s, um, you are under the um, idea, the illusion maybe that you have all kinds of time, and so maybe there's not quite that sort of you know wake up call, as if you were somebody that was in your 50s, let's
Mm.
say, or 60s. Another one, last one we can talk about is just simply the desire for growth, the desire for self discovery. So,
I didn't have that.
you did, see, you didn't have that, but that was also me. That's what I did have. It's just been this sort of drive and hunger in me forever. So some people just have this innate drive, if you will, to evolve and to challenge themselves, and they seek um, learning new skills, experiences, lifestyles, because they want to expand their potential, and just assume that that's going to help them live a more meaningful life. The more experiences they have, the more things they learn. So that could be it for someone that just all of a sudden they go, oh, all right, I all of a sudden got a wild hair and now I want to go do this. And it's just that's the new invention of themselves, or the new evolution, I think, is probably more appropriate. But so those are kind of just some things that often, very commonly, trigger people to reinvent themselves. uh, and I know a couple of those resonated with you, but what do you think? What do you think after that?
This is, it's so funny to look back on my journey and working with you and to kind of see it's really not unique to me. A lot of people who go through this go through it for the same reasons or in the same ways, and that's so interesting to me, but you're right. A lot of those I've seen other people, with the health scare, or
Mhm.
unfortunately for some people the health scare comes later in life and all they can really do is kind of reflect and say, "Did I do the right things?" And you
Yeah.
know, witnessing that is enough to kind of scare me into saying, okay, let me make sure I'm staying on the right track before I get to that point. So I think when we talk about reinventing yourself, in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, and what that looks like at
Mhm.
different ages, um, I think that plays into it as well, is kind of thinking about what is realistic for me at this stage of my life, or what am I able to do right now, or what am I willing to do, whether it feels like I'm able to do it or not. There were a lot of barriers in my way. I had very young children. The job opportunity that I got, which ended up, uh, it was my dream job. It was in a different city. So I had
Mhm.
a 250-mile commute each way every day with very young kids in elementary school. And I signed a contract to work at this place for 2 years, and I knew this could last 1 week. I could be locked into this contract and then realize the 500 miles a day isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it was one
Yeah.
of those things, I had spoken it into existence. I had said, "Lori, I am gonna be on TV news, and this is what I'm doing," and I was gonna make it happen. So,
Yeah.
how do we
Yeah.
get past those types of things where it seems like it's impossible? And even now looking back, that was impossible. I don't know how I did it or why I did it. And I
Mhm.
remember there were times my dad would call me and he would just be like, "I know you're driving. I know you haven't slept. I just want to make sure everything's okay." Like, why do we
Yeah.
do these things? How do we do these
Right.
things? How do you get past some of those? Obviously, it's possible. I did it. I worked there beyond my 2 years. How do you do it?
Right. First of all, so cool of your dad to call you, knowing you were exhausted and making this drive every single day of the week, which is, I mean, a lot of people would say you're insane. That's nuts.
I can look back and say that was nuts and insane.
Right. And I remember when you were telling me, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I have this opportunity, but I live here and the opportunity is there. My husband at that point and kids are here. Nobody's moving. If I want to do this, which you did, I love what you said about I spoke it into existence. You set your sights on something. You said this is what I'm doing, and you said it. You declared it, which I believe there is great power in our words. Whether you're declaring something good or you're declaring something, that's not so
Mhm.
good or negative, you're putting that energy out there, and you declared what you wanted. The opportunity came maybe not in the most ideal setup for you, but you had this determination and this drive where you were just going to make it happen. Um, and when you told me you were driving 250 miles to one way to be at this job at what time did you have to be there?
Oh my goodness. 3 in the morning.
So you're literally driving in the middle of the night for what, 3.5 hours
It was
ish,
it was a long drive.
something like that.
Some
To
nights I
get
made
to
it a little shorter.
and you do that, then you work, you do the job all day, and then you turn around and make that drive home Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
And I got to say, the fact that you made that happen, I mean, and to your question, n- it's the rare person. It's the rare person that can do that. I think is, given the circumstances where you had two young children at home. So it's not like you're going to come home and then just collapse and not do anything until you have to get up and do it again. Now you are a mom and you're taking care of two girls, and you're married. Laundry still has to be done. Food has to be made, things have to be cleaned up. I mean, all of the stuff of life is still there waiting for you. And you have to try to hopefully get 4 hours of sleep
Mhm.
a night.
It's a
So
blur. A lot of it is a blur.
I can
But
only
I think
imagine.
people let lesser obstacles stand in their way.
Yes, they absolutely do. So for you, you just made a decision that it wasn't going to be an obstacle, that it was a challenge, and you were going to rise to it and do it no matter what. I mean, you really just went, this is what I'm doing. In your mind, you had to do this. You had to do this to get to this next thing you were trying to create in your life. So you declared it. You said, this is what I'm doing. Here's my opportunity. I asked for it. I got it. Now this is the path. If I'm going to take an advantage of the opportunity that I said I wanted, then this is what I need to do. And then you just rolled up your sleeves and you literally muscled your way through it. So that's a rare that's a rare trait. I think that, yes, to your point, there's so many people that let far less stop them from going after something that was calling to them. But this was a strong calling for you, and I have such admiration for your drive that allowed you to do that, to get through that. That's That's a lot. That's a great story, and that should be quite an inspiration to a lot of people that are maybe on the fence about doing something that would require far less of a sacrifice than what you did. And how long did you end up doing that? I don't
Oh my
recall
goodness. It
now.
was 10 months. It was 10 months of no
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah, that's a lot. So, and it was worth it, right? Because it created another shift in your career, in your personal life, and it was moving you in a direction, right, that you really wanted to go, that you were being called to.
It was absolutely worth it. And I think I want to make it I wanna say this. I think anybody you say that it's a rare person or a rare drive, and maybe you're right, but this is the same person who just a few months before this was like, "Ah, I don't need goals. I don't need to change." It's in everyone. I really believe anybody surround yourself with the right people, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. Just get the
Mhm.
right people in your corner and set your mind to it. And I really believe anybody can live the life they want. I really, really do. Now, in terms
Yeah.
of it paying off and being what I needed, yes, I lived my dream for a while, but now I'm back to being a stay-at-home mom. Lori, what have we done? What have we done?
Right. Well, you could look at it as being back to a stay-at-home mom, but you are in a completely different circumstance now. So, I wouldn't say I wouldn't even use that phrase in that way because it's not like it was a backward step.
Right.
Um, first of all, in my view, for me, I only can speak for me and other women that enjoy being a stay-at-home mom. Not everyone, it's not for everyone, and it's not for maybe the entire stage of having kids at home. But I look at it as you get to be a stay-at-home mom now, and you may choose to do this for a while, or you may choose to do it for a long, long time. It could be a short time, it could be a long time. And we'll see what happens there. But I would say the the evolution that you have gone through and the reinventing that you have gone through has though allowed you to be able to be a stay-at-home mom again, though with a whole different mindset around it.
Yes,
You,
I would say at this point I have chosen stay-at-home parenting. In fact, my partner and I were just talking yesterday about a potential job opportunity, and I was just like, I could or I don't have to. I
yeah.
don't feel like that's still left for me to prove at this point. I don't have to
Mhm.
achieve great things in my career. I lived my dream. I was nominated for awards. I served a city that mattered to me. I had a great time doing it. And now I get to do this with you and we'll see where this takes us, but I'm just very much I don't want to say content, but
Mhm.
I've chosen to be where I am now. So while
Mhm.
we worked really hard to get to a certain place in my career at that time, I think as you've said, circumstances have changed in other areas of my life. So now I have the opportunity for growth in
Mhm.
other areas, and
Mhm.
I love that I've gotten to choose that. So
Right.
that's
Right.
where we are now.
Yeah, yeah. So before, I think you were feeling a little bit between a rock and a hard place. You were feeling a bit trapped and a bit repressed, I would say, right?
To
And
say
then
the
you went
least.
through this whole journey and you checked these amazing boxes. You proved a lot to yourself, and you were able to brush off skills that you already had, and then bring in a whole host of new tools and skills, and now you are here getting to choose, not feeling like you have no other choice. You get to be doing this. You're going to take these skills with you, and at some point, there may be something else that comes to you. It could be just this for who knows how long, or there could be a next thing after this that, again, you're going to be able to use all of these tools and skills in this life experience to do the next thing that all of a sudden you go, ooh, that is calling to me now. So there we go. So,
I will do
as
it all over again at 40, but without the commute.
yeah, that,
I've
yeah, I
already
don't
done
blame
that.
you. I don't blame you. That's brutal. That's freaking brutal, that
It
one.
was.
But anyway, you're a rock star.
You too.
Thank you. So I think, no matter you know, you can work past all of the reasons that you can't, if you really, really want to. I think, if the strong desire is there, and this is a thing that is really calling to you, there's a way. Because if it's calling to you that strongly and you can't stop thinking about it, and this is something you really, really want, um, there's, I think that there's always a workaround, some
Hmm.
way, shape, or form. There's a workaround, and there's a way that you can get past the I can't, as long as you don't, just give in so easily. Uh, it's really about that. You really have to be, thinking about what can I do? What is at least one thing I can do to start moving in this direction? So I don't
Hmm.
care how old you are. If you're 29, if you're 30, 40, 50, if you're 60, that that if you're using that as an excuse for not going after what it is you really want, then you don't want it that bad.
Mm.
You're willing to tolerate where you are and be okay and be content. And if you can live with that, cool, no stress for you.
Right.
But if this is something that you're gonna regret, when you think about down the road, and you're sitting there reflecting back over your life, and now it's too late to do anything, if that's going to be a regret and you know it, then you might want to rethink what you're willing to, do or not do to go after what you want.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And maybe the thing you think you want isn't really what lights a fire in you. Maybe you haven't found the thing yet. If it's not worth sacrificing a whole lot of stuff, maybe that's not what you really need.
Y- yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's true. Sometimes what we think we want it doesn't it doesn't pan out to be that, but sometimes you don't know until you go after it. And sometimes going after what you think you want, actually, you realize, oh, maybe this wasn't it, but it has led you to something else that all of a sudden you're like, oh, this has put me on a whole different path that I never would have seen had I not gone after this.
It's the
That's
journey,
happened
not
to
the
me.
destination.
Yeah, yeah, that's happened to me. We'll save that for another conversation. But the detours, the things that, maybe you thought you wanted, that you ended up realizing you didn't want, or they ended up as, some sort of, less than successful or a failure, but then it led to something else. That's happened to me more than once. And I think that would be a fun, topic to dive into it on another episode.
Noted.
But yeah, so that's, advice for anyone. I do not use your age as an excuse. That's a cop out.
Mm, I agree. Don't use your kids' age as an excuse because I was definitely my kids, I think they were in kindergarten at the time. And I was
Hmm.
like, this is not a great time for me to be tired in the afternoons. Kindergartners have to be supervised. Like this is not a great time for this. But it was fine. It was fine. It found a way. It worked itself out, and
Hmm.
everything was fine.
Sure. And you demonstrated something kind of interesting, right, for your kids.
That's
Um,
right.
right? Sometimes things are hard and there's challenges, but I really want to make this happen. So, and you did.
Exactly.
So
That's
that
right.
was, yeah, some pretty good, role modeling there, Mom.
Oh, thank you. They were along
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
ride. They loved it. Not the
yeah,
literal
yeah.
ride. The commuting, that was just me. Me and my podcasts. I got very close to Eric Bischoff at that time. He just didn't know it. But, you know, 5, 6 hours of Eric in my ears every day. It was a good
you know,
time.
there are just certain people that, for whatever reason, the things they talk about just land with us in a way that keeps us motivated, inspired, sparks ideas. I would say whoever that is for you, if people listening, if there are, I mean, I have people that I listen to on a regular basis because I know that if I listen to this person while I'm driving into town or on a commute or whatever, that I will absolutely come away from listening to them for whether it's 20 minutes or an hour and a half. I will take something valuable for myself away that is going to help me in my endeavors, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or literally, taking action and doing something. So if you have that person, tap into that and use that as as a resource to keep you on fire, keep
That's
the
right.
fire lit.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Now, how can people identify what it is if you're watching us? I have critters all over me.
I
Uh,
see that.
I was hoping
That
the cat and dog wouldn't fight, so I think we've made it. We've cleared that. I think. Um, Loree, how can people identify? What if you have a client who is feeling stuck or a little stagnant in whatever they're doing, but they haven't
mm.
identified what it is that needs to shift? How do you help them get there?
Yeah. So, there are back to the the idea of quality questions. So there are some really good questions that help clients get past, their limiting beliefs, their I don't think I can, I don't know hows, and I don't even know what I want. Those things, they can really help reconnect them with their maybe some of their core desires, but they're designed to open up possibilities, to get people thinking, to uncover maybe some desires they even forgot they had, and then certainly just help them get clear on things. So what I've got is like a bunch of really good questions to facilitate that. I think what would be fun is if we maybe dive into like a couple of them, two or three, and then maybe what we'll do just to help everyone out is we'll post the rest of them in the We're Talking Shift Facebook group so that anyone that would like to do a little self inquiry can utilize these, and maybe it'll help them get clear on what they're trying to do or thinking about doing, or just feeling like, all right, I'm stuck, I don't know what the hell I want to do. So this can help.
Yes,
Make
I
sense?
love that idea. We'll get those posted in the group.
Okay. So here's an example of one that is super helpful. So, Lauren, if I were to ask you, when was the last time that you felt deeply fulfilled, and what were you doing?
Mm, deeply fulfilled. When I was a television reporter, as we just talked about my dream career, I was on a political beat for a while, and I just loved that line of work. I loved the accountability journalism and bringing things to light. That was so fulfilling for me. That was it.
Yeah, perfect. So that's a great question to help someone who hasn't really thought about that think about, well, when was that? Okay, maybe they can pinpoint a time when they felt like they were very fulfilled. Okay, what were you doing at that time? What
Hmm.
was different in your life then, um, as opposed to, what you're doing now?
I
So
will
it's a
say
good, yeah.
I'm reaching a place too, Lori, where I feel more fulfilled in parenting than I have before. And I don't
Mm,
know if it's the age. My children are getting to an age where they're a little bit more self sufficient. They're people I want to be around more than people who need me around. So that's starting to fulfill me in a different way as well.
I love that. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about parenting, and actually, I'm excited that we're going to be diving more into that field, and that subject matter too as we move forward with the show. Because I think a lot of people are are going through just stuff with parenting. It's different these days than it
We
was.
are in these trenches, Lori. We
Mm, it's different, yeah.
call the
So
parents, check on the parents.
yes, yes. Okay, so another great question that kind of helps a person start to, oh, I guess, identify their future self. And that would be, all right, if you could fast forward like maybe 5 years and you could love, just really love where you are in 5 years, what would that look like for you? So this is the time where you literally get to sit and contemplate and dream about it and almost create a mini movie of what what sounds so amazing to me 5 years from now. So what would that look like?
Yeah, I don't know if I can describe that right now, but that is a version of the question that you asked me that got my wheels turning a few
Mm,
years ago. So I love that
okay.
question.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a really good one. All right, and then one more for people to think about, um, and I just think this is powerful in a different way, and that is what is something that you've always wanted to try, but you haven't given yourself permission to do so.
Mm,
Uh, that's a good one because we often are looking for permission outside of ourselves, from someone else that we admire, or from a significant other, um, from just a community, because we're very afraid of doing something that people may disapprove of, and we don't like that feeling. That's hard for a lot of people to feel like, oh, but what if? What if I'm looked down upon? What if I'm ridiculed? What if this is not approved by people that matter to me? So that will usually be pretty effective at keeping a lot of people from not trying something. They won't give themselves permission. So I think thinking about, okay, what's something that you'd really like to try, whether or not you stick to it or not. It could be anything, but just something that you want to try to do or experience. And you just simply haven't given yourself the permission. You come up with those reasons, or you come up with just, reasons of your own that, oh, I shouldn't, I can't, this would be a bad idea, because you'll come up with every kind of, reason and all kinds of evidence to keep yourself
mhm.
stuck. So I think that's a really interesting one too. But there's about 10 or 11 other really, I mean, there's a lot of them, but there's some core really good questions like that, that if a person really wants to be serious about some self inquiry and figuring out how to move forward or towards something that's calling to them, sitting down, time by yourself with a pen and paper, and literally answering these questions for
Mhm.
yourself is a really good start.
Absolutely. And that last question, Lori, resonates with me a lot too. There are a lot of disapprovers in my life. And to some degree, I wonder if I've created that culture in my life for some reason. But um, some people, we strive for perfection, or we're people pleasers and we just want everyone to approve of what we're doing. And so for me, having a life coach really changed that dynamic for me, because all of a
Mm,
sudden I have someone who is cheering for me, is expectant that I'm going to follow the action steps that were assigned in our conversation. So that really changed the game for me. But I also have a more supportive partner now, and so I sought that in a partner. And I also have one of my best friends is very much a person I feel like I can share my dreams with her.
mm,
She believes in me, she encourages me, and she will follow up and say, "Hey, that thing we talked about, how's that going?" Versus I have plenty of other friends, and we all have all types of friends, right? I am both types of friends to different people, but other friends who are just going to grab a daiquiri with you at the Mexican spot or send you a silly meme. I think there's a time and a place for all of these people, but I really think it's so important for everyone to have someone in their circle who is encouraging them
mm.
toward whatever they're meant to be doing.
Yeah, I do too. It goes a long way, and you just, can a person go it alone? Yeah, But wow, it is really so much nicer to feel like you have somebody in your corner. It's very valuable. So to have that or to be that for another
Mhm.
person is, to be of service in that way. And that's why coaching is so great, because coaches get to be of service in that manner, for clients, and that's a very fulfilling role, for me, and that's why people do it. It's very fulfilling. But yeah, so good. I'm glad you have that as well. That's a good friendship. And I think we're good for the day. I think that's a lot for people to absorb and think about today. What do you think? Any final
I
thoughts?
agree. Well, there's more. They need to go on over to our Facebook group and find the rest of these questions and really reflect on them. And I hope that our friends who are listening will also reflect on who is the person, who is a teammate for them in their lives, because if you
Mm.
can't identify that person, I feel like start there. Find your people. Find your cheerleaders and your teammates and the people who want the best for you and expect the best from you, and people you can trust to have these conversations with. So, I would invite our friends here to take this action. Listen to me. Now I'm Lori.
I love that. I love that. Take the action. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, take a step. Just make a move. It matters. Every little action step matters. All right, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And if you do feel like you'd like to find out what coaching with me is all about, you can head over to loreebischoff.com and check it out. So, everything else, links to the group and everything will be in the show notes. And until next time, stay feisty, friends, and go make some epic shift happen in your lives.